Handsome Jack, the ultimate villain that you love to hate. Widely considered one of the greatest video game villains of all time, his shadow looms large in the Borderlands franchise, but he's not the only good villain this series has produced. This is my top 10 villains in Borderlands franchise history that aren't named Handsome Jack. Starting us off strong at number 10 is Colonel Hector from the Commander Lilith DLC in Borderlands 2. Hector was one of those characters that you kind of like, but you know you're supposed to hate him. Kind of like Jack, but he's actually a lot closer in spirit to General Knoxx, who you know that we'll already see later on in this list. Hector and his men have been promised paradise, but they were tricked into their mission on Pandora, and then they found an Iridian artifact and they thought things were finally going to improve, but dolls trapped Hector and his men in a mine, leaving them to die. With the help of Cassius, a scientist in the area, Hector and his men eventually escape and set out to take over Sanctuary and get the vault key. They have big plans on how this is going to change everything, but of course this is Borderlands and things never go quite the way that you plan, and they gas everybody, turning them into this weird plant-like creature type stuff. Hector is a great villain because he quips at the player, he mocks Lilith's leadership, which obviously you should, and he has a hilarious way about him in general. He's also a borderline raid boss fight at the end of this DLC as well. Waves of tough enemies, mechanics that require you to do more than just hold the trigger to win. Fun boss, fun villain. Sliding in at number 9 is Piston, and what is it with Borderlands villains gassing people? At the start of the Borderlands 2 DLC Torgue's campaign of Carnage, we meet Piston, who tricks us into entering an arena just so he can gas us. Piston has some great dialogue, a cool character design, and plays the bad guy part pretty well. Sadly, the final fight versus his blimp is one of the worst boss fights in the franchise, but it does give us this cool Flyboy joke, which genuinely cracked me up the first time it happened.
Flyboy versus the Vault Hunter. Fight!
Piston looking like a roided out Mega Man is just a bonus to the character in my book. Like most good Borderlands villains, Piston spends a lot of time taunting the Vault Hunters. I think the point where I went from this guy is hilariously inept to man, I want to murder this clown is when he shows up in Badassosaurus. That fight is brutal until you learn about shooting the barrels. The bullet reflection alone is grade A BS. After that, we fight Piston himself and even get to open a vault of sorts, which as it turns out didn't seem like a vault at all and more like a stream of random garbage loot that pops out of the floor. And number 8 on this list, and please just hear me out here, just give me a moment on this one, Troy and Tyreen Calypso. Now don't click off the video, okay? Just listen, hold on. Despite their cringe dialogue, it's hard not to appreciate at least the concept of twins born in an abandoned vault being bestowed with the siren leech power. These conjoined twins therefore shared the siren powers despite boys not being able to be sirens. It was a brilliant way to give a male character siren-like abilities. Troy ultimately leeching his sister, nearly killing her in the fight versus the Vault Hunters, was a great evolution of his character, who up to that point was just following her lead all the time. His death fueled her anger further, and we actually end up with a great character performance near the end with Tyreen killing off her own father in her quest for more power. It still baffles me to this day that people blame Ava for Maya's death instead of Troy and Tyreen. If Ava had never been there, had she never even been born, Maya still dies in that vault. There's no escaping that vault from Maya. Hell, Tyreen had already leached Lilith's powers at that point. She could have just phase shifted right behind Maya and leached her herself. There's no getting around it. There's some moments of brilliance with the twins, but they did suffer from being in the shadow of Jack, and some of that dialogue still is just so cringy. Moving on to number 7 on this list, we head into the pre-sequel for Shadow Trap, a villain living inside of Claptrap in the Claptastic Voyage DLC. This one's weird because he basically only exists as a construct in the mind or memory cache of Claptrap. The overall story of the Claptastic Voyage is excellent. If you're a Borderlands fan who never tried the pre-sequel, do yourself a favor, click off this video, go play it right now. Beat this DLC, it's truly exceptional. Anyhow, back to the villain. Shadow Trap tricks the Vault Hunters repeatedly in order to try and secure the H source that is trapped in the quarantine section of Claptrap's memory. Eventually, we get to fight him, first as Eclipse, and then after defeating that, he turns into EOS, which is one of the best boss fights in the franchise, and like Hector before this, could just as easily be considered a quote-unquote raid boss with how the whole thing works and plays. But my favorite part about Shadow Trap was that he actually is the reason that Claptrap is there to save the Vault Hunters at the beginning of Borderlands 2. After Jack destroyed all the Claptraps, our Claptrap still has a trace of Shadow Trap lurking inside of his memory and brought him back from the brink right as Sir Hammerlock discovers him in the Windshear Waste. This whole DLC wraps up moments from Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2 and genuinely gave me a deeper appreciation for Claptrap as a character. Coming in number 6, the Trant family. Yes, all of them. The Trant family of villains consists of 3 that we actually fought. Well, technically 2, and then Captain Haunt, who was obviously a play on Trant. But Captain and General Trant were both hilarious, inept, and fun to kill. Their trash talk bordered on the absurd, but fans seem to widely agree that the Trants were more fun as villains than Troy and Tyreen. They have that evil but hilarious thing going on that works so well in the Borderlands universe. We see it time and time again. Villains who aren't at least somewhat comedic just absolutely seem to fail in this series, mostly. That's why when you find the echologs for Trant throughout Athenas, you need to listen to them because they are hilarious. Then there's the fight itself. Both of the Trants are just okay as boss fights. There's nothing too crazy going on there, but both have some crazy good loot. Captain Trant drops the Chaosin, one of the best SMGs in the entire franchise. General Trant drops the DNA and the Recursion, and despite what you might have heard, the Recursion is still very good versus mobs, especially a corrosive one versus the Claptrap nest. In the Handsome Jackpot DLC, it's a super fast way to level up quick, especially if you're playing as Amara. And the DNA got a huge buff, making it a top 10 SMG too. Then there's Captain Haunt. He's basically an undead version of the Trants, and it just works. His arena, his boss fight, especially on Mayhem 10 or 11, it is a legitimate raid boss fight. Plus, it features probably the best overall track in Borderlands history, Captain Haunt's theme by Race and Varner. Sliding at number 5 is Captain Scarlet from the first Borderlands 2 DLC. The main villain from her own DLC, Scarlet originally appears as a helpful guide who seeks treasure and tasks you with aiding in that quest. This being Borderlands, of course she betrays you. Only problem, her and her pet Roscoe get swallowed up by the Leviathan, and then the Vault Hunters, while chasing her, also get swallowed up. Inside the belly of the beast, we encounter Scarlet once more, and we do battle with Roscoe, which is her pet Rackhive. After beating him, Scarlet drops her pistol and disappears, begging the question of why didn't she just teleport out before we got there? Anyhow, as it turns out, Scarlet was on the right track. When the Leviathan pukes you out, you are inside of this giant room, and after you defeat him, you can enter that area and see one of the coolest treasure rooms in Borderlands history. Seriously, Gearbox, bring these back. We love a good treasure room, especially when we feel like we've earned it. But back to Scarlet. As she teleports and runs away, she says, "Till we meet again," and fans have been eagerly anticipating that return for well over a decade now. Coming in at number 4 is Butcher Rose from Borderlands 3's third DLC, Bounty of Blood. Now, just like Scarlet in so many ways, Butcher Rose first appears to be a friendly NPC, guiding us at the start of the DLC, losing her beloved pet Toge in battle, and then helping us defeat enemies to save the townfolk. But, just like Scarlet, she's driven by her own lust for power, and she betrays us after letting us do all the legwork. What puts Rose ahead of Scarlet for me is twofold. First, the character design of Rose is exceptional. Her entire look is just perfect. Next, we actually get to fight her at the end of the DLC, and like Scarlet, just when you think you got her, poof, she disappears. Gearbox has the opportunity to bring both Scarlet and Rose back, and frankly, they should. That would be like the ultimate in fan service right there, especially if they teamed up. Holy crap. Coming in at number 3, General Knoxx. When you look back at General Knoxx, it is easy to see the inspirations for Handsome Jack. Knoxx talks trash to the Vault Hunters, has hilarious dialogue, and is hell-bent on stopping us from achieving our mission, even if he was about to commit Sudoku when we first walked in. Something a lot of you probably don't know about Knoxx is that he had his own Twitter account way back in 2010, and I dug these up and they are hilarious. Laying down insults for players, Mordecai, and even Moxie. Pretty sure everything about Knoxx is the brainchild of Anthony Birch, who also was the mastermind behind Handsome Jack, and it shows in both the tweets and the general tone of Knoxx in the game. Knoxx hates hates his commanders and seems to want nothing more than to be done with it all, but his trash talk of the Vault Hunters is great stuff, and every Borderlands fans needs to play this DLC at least once to experience the glory of Knoxx, and once again, the glory of his treasure room. Gearbox, give us treasure rooms, we want loot. At number 2 on this list is Professor Nakayama from the pre-sequel. Now, I know he's not a fearsome enemy or the best trash talker, but I love Nakayama as a villain for a multitude of reasons. First, his obsession with Jack leads to some amazing moments in the pre-sequel. There's 2 missions in the pre-sequel, Paint Job and Urgent Message, where Nakayama is established as being obsessed with Jack, and he actually gets Jack to threaten him, but Nakayama is just thrilled that Jack almost said his name right. During the Nakayama missions, he eventually finds a way to make a handsome Jack AI that he puts into a loader, and later that AI returns in Tales from the Borderlands. This leaves a chance that Jack can return in AI form in the future. The other thing that I really love about Nakayama is the Nakayama fight in the Sir Hammerlock's Big Game Hunt DLC in Borderlands 2. It's arguably the best boss fight in video game history. Professor Nakayama is one of those Borderlands villains that you laugh at and wonder, is he actually going to pull this off? And well, he did keep Jack alive in his own unique way. If nothing else, you should appreciate Nakayama for poisoning the CEO of the Atlas Corporation. Now, if only he'd done that before the Borderlands movie. Honorable mention, Borderlands 1, Nine Toes for being our introduction to that Borderlands style of humor. Borderlands 2, The Handsome Sorcerer. Let's be honest, that's Jack in cosplay, but you know, the title of this video is not Handsome Jack. So Borderlands 3, Private Beans, who is just absolutely the king of roasting Ava. And if you want to hear Ava just get absolutely shit on, do that mission. It's called Invasion of Privacy. You'll love it.
A11, found an alley to live in, warm enough to survive the nights because there's a pressure release valve for the sewer that opens every 20 minutes. This chick lived in a fart cave. She lost everything.
And then in Borderlands 4, the Timekeeper. I actually like the Timekeeper a lot. He just isn't, you know, that thrilling as a boss. Finally, coming in at number 1 and breaking kind of one of my own rules about these quote-unquote Borderlands videos, I am including a Wonderlands boss, the Dragon Lord. Like I said, I don't normally include Wonderlands stuff in Borderlands videos because it's kind of its own offshoot thing, but I'm making an exception here because the Dragon Lord is an amazing villain that checks all the boxes. Evil, does something horrible to a beloved character, wisecracks and mocks the player non-stop without it being forced or cheesy, and best of all, we fight him, defeat him, and Tiny Tina even forgives him at the end of it, allowing him to eventually betray her again, surely, in a future Wonderlands game if they ever make another one. The story for Wonderlands is arguably one of the best in the series, and the Dragon Lord really helps with that. Obviously, having Will Arnett playing this role helps immensely, but the writing ensured that no matter who played that role, it would still have led to an exceptional villain. Just like Handsome Jack, somebody that we love to hate and somebody whose presence as the villain makes the story that much better. So that's my top 10 villains not named Handsome Jack. Let me know if you think I missed one in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want to be notified when I post more Borderlands content. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.